Picture this, a couple in 1950s America. High school sweethearts who married at 19, had 3 kids by 25, and stayed together for life. That was the norm, the expected path for nearly everyone. But today, that story feels almost like ancient history. Today we're exploring how one of humanity's oldest institutions, marriage, is undergoing a remarkable transformation. How did we go from "till death do us part" being the universal expectation to a world where marriage is just one option among many? What's driving these changes, and what do they mean for our relationships and society? Let's start with something that might surprise you. Despite what you might have heard, divorce rates in America aren't actually skyrocketing. In fact, they've been declining since 1980. Yes, you heard that right. Fewer people are getting divorced today than 40 years ago. But that doesn't mean marriage is doing fine. It's just changing in ways nobody expected. The big shift began in the late 1960s. That's when California introduced no-fault divorce in 1969. Before this, you couldn't just end a marriage because you were unhappy. You had to prove your spouse did something wrong, like adultery or abandonment. By 2010, every state had adopted similar laws, making divorce much more accessible. At the same time, women were entering the workforce in record numbers. Suddenly, a woman didn't have to stay in an unhappy marriage for financial survival. That's why divorce rates initially climbed. People finally had the freedom to leave marriages that may have been quietly suffering for years. So why are couples divorcing today? The top reasons might sound simple, but they point to deeper issues. Lack of commitment tops the list. That feeling that one or both partners have mentally checked out. Communication problems are another major factor. When couples can't discuss problems effectively, resentment builds until it's too late. Infidelity remains a devastating breach of trust that many marriages can't survive. And money troubles create stress that puts even strong relationships to the test. A fascinating trend is what experts call gray divorce. Couples over 50 calling it quits after decades together. These late-life divorces have doubled since the 1990s. Why? People are living longer and asking themselves, do I want to spend my remaining 20 to 30 years in an unhappy marriage? Empty nest syndrome plays a role too. When the kids leave, some couples discover they've grown apart. And with women having their own retirement funds and financial independence, staying in an unsatisfying marriage isn't the only option anymore. Marriage looks dramatically different around the world. In the Maldives, the divorce rate is sky high, about 5.5 divorces per 1,000 people. Compare that to India, where it's just 0.01, literally 1 divorce per 10,000 people. The United States falls somewhere in the middle with about 2.5 divorces per 1,000 people. These huge differences reflect cultural values, religious beliefs, and economic realities. In India, divorce carries such a powerful stigma that many couples stay in unhappy marriages rather than face social rejection. Family pressure, limited economic options for women, and religious teachings all discourage divorce. Meanwhile, in the Maldives, the process is so simple and inexpensive that some people marry and divorce multiple times throughout their lives. Now let's talk about how we find partners in the first place. Dating has undergone a complete revolution. In the early 1900s, courtship was formal and supervised by parents. Young men would call on women in their family homes, sitting in the parlor under watchful eyes. The goal was clearly marriage, and the process was highly structured. By the 1920s, the invention of the automobile changed everything. Suddenly, couples could escape parental supervision. Dating became more about fun and personal connection than immediate marriage plans. The mid-century saw the rise of going steady, exclusive relationships among teens and young adults. Then the sexual revolution of the 1960s and 70s shattered many traditional restrictions. But nothing has transformed dating like the internet and smartphone apps. Today, a third of all new relationships start online. These technologies offer unprecedented choice and convenience. You can literally browse thousands of potential partners from your couch. The stigma once attached to online dating has almost completely disappeared. But this digital transformation comes with downsides. Many people report feeling overwhelmed by too many options, leading to decision paralysis or always wondering if someone better might be just one more swipe away. Dating apps can create a culture of superficiality where quick judgments based on photos replace deeper connections. Gender roles in relationships have shifted dramatically too. Traditional expectations, men as providers, women as homemakers, are increasingly rejected in favor of more equal partnerships. Women initiate relationships more often, men take on more household and childcare responsibilities, and couples negotiate their own arrangements rather than following prescribed roles. Studies show that couples with more egalitarian relationships actually report higher satisfaction levels. Perhaps the most significant change in modern relationships is the rise of cohabitation, couples living together without marriage. This was once scandalous, but today it's become normalized across much of the world. In the US, most married couples live together first, and many people choose cohabitation as a permanent alternative to marriage. Why the shift? For some, it's financial. Sharing living expenses makes economic sense. Others see it as a trial run before marriage. Many simply don't see marriage as necessary for a committed relationship. The data on whether cohabitation affects future marriage success is complex and debated. Some studies suggest living together before engagement might increase divorce risk, while others find no effect or even positive outcomes. What seems most important isn't cohabitation itself, but rather the level of commitment and communication between partners. Another fascinating development in modern marriage is the increasing popularity of prenuptial agreements. Once viewed as unromantic or even pessimistic, these legal contracts are now becoming mainstream, particularly among millennials and Gen Z couples. A prenuptial agreement, or prenup, is essentially a contract created before marriage that outlines how assets will be divided if the marriage ends. Historically, prenups were primarily associated with the wealthy or celebrities protecting vast fortunes. Today, they're becoming standard practice for many ordinary couples. So what's driving this shift? For one, people are marrying later. The average age of first marriage is now 30 for men and 28 for women, nearly a decade later than in the 1960s. This means many enter marriage with established careers, retirement accounts, property, or even businesses they've built independently. A prenup provides clarity on protecting these premarital assets. Student loan debt plays a role too, with the average graduate carrying over $30,000 in education debt. Many don't want their future spouse potentially liable for financial burdens they acquired before the relationship. Prenups can clearly establish that certain debts remain individual responsibilities. There's also the rise of second marriages. Nearly 40% of new marriages involve at least one previously married partner. These individuals often have children from prior relationships, accumulated assets, or financial obligations like alimony or child support. Prenuptial agreements help protect inheritance rights for children from previous marriages and clarify financial responsibilities. Critics argue that prenups create a negative foundation for marriage, planning for failure before you've even begun. But supporters see it differently, as a practical way to communicate openly about finances, which remains one of the leading sources of marital conflict. The process of creating a prenup forces couples to have difficult but necessary conversations about money, values, and future plans. So what does all this mean for marriage as an institution? It's not dying, but it is being reimagined. People are marrying later, approaching marriage with different expectations, and seeing it as one possible relationship option rather than an inevitable life stage. Some choose alternatives like cohabitation or remaining single. Others embrace marriage but redefine it on their own terms. The reality is that relationships have always evolved alongside society. Economic changes, technological innovations, shifting gender roles, and cultural values all shape how we form partnerships. What we're witnessing isn't the end of committed relationships, but their transformation. As we navigate these changes, perhaps the most important question isn't whether marriage rates are rising or falling, but whether our relationships, whatever form they take, bring us fulfillment, support, and love. After all, the desire for meaningful connection remains as powerful as ever, even as the ways we express it continue to change. Thanks for joining me on this exploration of marriage trends. If you found this insightful, please like and subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. How have you seen relationships changing in your own life or community? The conversation continues below.